The imperial arena of Drakmor stood as a testament to centuries of draconic dominance. Its obsidian walls reached toward the crimson sky, carved with the names of legendary dragons who had shaped galactic history. Today, the arena buzzed with anticipation as the annual bonding ceremony commenced, a sacred tradition where young war dragons chose their riders from among the galaxy's most elite warriors. Thor, the arena's master trainer, stood at the center of the ceremonial ground, his scaled chest swelling with pride. A Drakmor native himself, he had trained war dragons for 3 decades, watching them select champions from the Krellian shock troops, Vexian berserkers, and occasionally, the rare ethereal mind warrior. His reputation was impeccable, his methods unquestioned. Let the selection begin. Thor's voice boomed across the arena, amplified by ancient sonic crystals embedded in the walls. 100 candidates stood in formation, each representing their species' finest. They wore ceremonial armor, carried ancestral weapons, and bore the scars of countless battles. These were warriors who had conquered planets, led armies, and struck fear into the hearts of entire civilizations. And then there was Rhea. The human girl stood at the far end of the line, barely reaching the shoulder of the Krellian warrior beside her. She wore no armor, carried no weapon, and bore no scars. Her simple gray jumpsuit marked her as a recent arrival from one of the human colony ships, refugees from a species barely noticed by the galactic community. She was thin, her skin pale from months in cryosleep, her dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail. Thor had objected to her presence. Humans were newcomers, their military prowess unproven, their physical capabilities laughable compared to established warrior races. But the Galactic Council had mandated inclusion, and so here she stood, a cosmic joke among legends. The first dragon emerged from the holding chambers, a magnificent creature of silver and blue, scales shimmering like starlight. Shadowclaw was its name, a young male from the prestigious Stormwing bloodline. The crowd held its breath. Shadowclaw prowled past the Krellian, showing no interest. It circled the Vexian berserker, sniffing, considering, then moving on. Its amber eyes scanned the line, predatory and intelligent. Then inexplicably it stopped before Rhea. The human girl met its gaze without flinching. She didn't bow, didn't grovel, didn't showcase her strength. She simply stood there, her brown eyes reflecting the dragon's own stare with something Thor couldn't quite identify. Was it respect? Curiosity? Understanding? Shadowclaw sat down. The arena fell silent. Thor's smile, which had been plastered across his face for the ceremony, slowly faded. His jaw clenched. Shadowclaw, rise, he commanded, his voice tight. Continue your selection. The dragon didn't move. It continued to gaze at Rhea, and she at it, as if they were having a conversation no one else could hear. This is irregular, Thor announced, striding forward. The dragon has made an error. Shadowclaw, I command you by the ancient pacts. The ancient pacts say a dragon's choice is absolute. Rhea spoke softly, but her voice carried across the silent arena. Or have the rules changed, Master Trainer? Thor's eyes narrowed. A dragon bonds with warriors, human. With champions who have proven themselves in battle. You're nothing. You've conquered nothing. You've led no armies, won no victories. You're not even armed. Rhea tilted her head slightly. Is that what you think dragons choose? The biggest weapon? The most scars? I know what dragons choose, Thor snarled, his composure cracking. I've trained them for 3 decades. They choose strength, ferocity, dominance. You choose, Rhea interrupted gently. You choose who you think deserves them. But they're not yours to give, are they? Shadowclaw made a low rumbling sound, not threatening, but almost amused. Thor's face darkened. I dare to stand here because your council allowed it, Rhea said, her voice still calm. And Shadowclaw dares to sit because that's his nature. Dragons aren't weapons, Master Trainer. They're not tools to amplify your idea of worthiness. Humans know nothing of dragons. Thor roared. Your species has been among the stars for barely a century. We have bonded with dragons for millennia. Then maybe, Rhea said quietly, reaching out to touch Shadowclaw's snout. The dragon leaned into her hand. You've forgotten what they really are. The arena erupted in chaos. Aliens argued, cameras swarmed, and officials conferred in panicked whispers. But Thor stood frozen, watching as the human girl rested her forehead against the dragon's scaled brow. both of them closing their eyes. Later, after the ceremony collapsed into disorder and the officials retreated to debate this unprecedented situation, Thor found Rhea sitting with Shadowclaw in one of the open courtyards away from the chaos. "Why?" he asked, his anger drained, replaced by genuine confusion. "Why would a war dragon of the Stormwing bloodline choose you?" Rhea looked up at him, and for the first time Thor saw something in her eyes that made him understand why the dragon had sat. It wasn't weakness he saw, or naivety. It was something far more dangerous. It was recognition of truth. "Because I don't want to ride a dragon into war," Rhea said simply. "I want to understand one. Because I see Shadowclaw as more than a weapon. Because maybe, after all these centuries of bonding, dragons are tired of only being chosen by people who see them as tools." Shadowclaw's chest rumbled, with what could only be described as approval. "Humans," the dragon spoke for the first time, its voice like distant thunder, "do not yet know how to conquer, but perhaps they remember how to befriend." Thor stared at them both, his worldview crumbling. He had trained dragons to be weapons for so long, he'd forgotten they were beings. And this human girl, this weak, unproven newcomer, had reminded Shadowclaw of something the warrior races had buried beneath glory and violence. As Thor walked away, he heard Rhea laughing softly as Shadowclaw nuzzled her shoulder. The sound echoed through the ancient arena, and for the first time in decades, Thor wondered if perhaps humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to fight. It was their ability to see others as more than enemies or tools, to see them as friends. And that, he realized with growing dread, would change everything.